"We've never been with a white man before," the three Zulu sisters told the young lumberjack. Snow blew in crooked lines across the frozen river, dragging loose ice like torn paper. The pines leaned under the weight, their branches shaking loose a fine powder that glowed pale in the late afternoon light. The camp sat low in the valley, built from green timber and desperation, smoke from the cookhouse curling heavy and slow. Elias trudged in from the skidding road with his peavey over his shoulder, boots clotted with snow and sawdust. His shoulders burned from the haul. His breath came out in hard bursts, white against the dark wall of trees. The bell from the blacksmith's lean-to rang twice, end of day for the team on the south cut, and the sound seemed to hang in the cold before falling away. He passed the log yard and the half-frozen river, then the row of rough-hewn bunkhouses. In the dimming light, the windows threw weak yellow rectangles into the snow, like tired eyes. Voices leaked out with the smoke. Laughter here. Coughs there. The scrape of boots, the clink of tin cups. He was halfway to the mess hall when he saw them. Three women stood just beyond the main track, near the sled stacked with hay and empty barrels. They were wrapped in mismatched coats and shawls, clothes patched and layered, canvas, wool and a strip of dark blue cloth that did not belong to this country. The snow around their boots was churned from waiting. Their faces were cut sharp by the cold. Dark eyes watching everything. Elias slowed. Men streamed past him, shoulders hunched, the day's fatigue pulling them toward heat and food. A few glanced at the women and away again. Some stared longer, curious, then buried their interest under old habits. Elias forced his feet forward and tipped his cap. The oldest of the three stepped half a pace ahead. She wore a gray coat too broad in the shoulders, cinched with a piece of rope. Beneath the hat pulled low on her head, stray braids escaped, stiff with frost. "You are Elias?" she asked. Her accent dragged the edges of the words into something soft, then sharpened them again. He blinked. "That's me. We were told to find him." The middle sister spoke now, a scarf wrapped around the lower half of her face, breath turning it darker with damp. A young man with an axe on his shoulder. "That would be you." Her eyes held a kind of wary amusement, as if she were daring him to disagree. The smallest of the three said nothing. Her gaze moved from his boots to the camp behind him, then to the sky, reading something he could not see. He shifted his weight. "The foreman send you my way?" he asked. The oldest nodded. "He said you are not the worst." Elias huffed once, air steaming out. "High praise." The oldest watched his face, weighing the joke, then let the corner of her mouth tip upward. She drew in a breath that seemed to steady them all. "We have never worked for a white man before," she said quietly. "Never eaten his bread, never taken his coin. Not like this. Not depending on him." The middle sister's eyes flicked to Elias and she smiled, thin, controlled but not unfriendly. "Never stayed in a camp where every voice sounds like yours," she added. "Never trusted one of you to keep us from freezing." The exact words landed between them, heavier than the snow. "We've never been with a white man before." The sentence hung there, unadorned, truer than any jest the passing men might have made of it. Elias felt his throat tighten. He looked at their hands, bare fingers reddened by the cold, nails rimmed with dirt. Calluses same as his. Not soft. Not helpless. Just far from where they were meant to be. "Camp's no place for anyone who's got somewhere else to go," he said. "I'm guessing you don't." The youngest finally spoke, her voice low but clear. "Home is very far," she said. "And burned." The oldest laid a hand briefly on her arm, a small anchor. Elias swallowed. "You have names?" The oldest nodded. "I am Thandika." She tapped her chest once, then motioned to the middle sister. "This is Namsa." Her hand moved to the younger. "And this is Lindile." He repeated them under his breath, slower than he would have liked, careful not to twist the sounds. Thandika watched him do it and something like approval flickered in her eyes. He jerked his head toward the mess hall. "Food first," he said. "Then we'll see what the foreman's got in mind for your work. He's likely thinking cooking, washing, mending. The kind of labor men forget is labor." Namsa's eyes sharpened. "We did not come all this way to carry only men's shirts," she said. "We know wood. We know how to cut it, how to carry it. Fire is fire. Trees are trees." Elias studied her. The wind knifed between the bunkhouses. He could feel it trying to find the gaps in his shirt. "You handle a saw?" he asked. Namsa tilted her head. "Give us one," she replied. "You will see." He almost smiled. "We'll start with you not losing fingers," he said. "Come on. You'll freeze out here." He led them across the yard. Men paused to look, then pretended they hadn't. A few muttered, low voices folding back into the cold. Foreign, someone said under his breath. Others glanced quickly at Elias, measuring. Young, broad-shouldered, not yet set deep into the bitterness that hardened older men. Near the mess hall door, old Kruger leaned against the wall with a pipe clenched in his teeth, smoke curling around his beard. His eyes, pale and sharp, followed the three women with open curiosity. What river current washed those in? He asked. Foreman's idea, Elias said. Hands for the camp. Names are Thandika, Namsa, Lindau. Kruger tipped an invisible hat toward them. Welcome to the end of the earth, he said. Hope you like pine and regret. Namsa's eyes sparked. Where we come from there is little left to like, she said. Pine is better than nothing. Kruger chuckled once, surprised. Sharp tongue, he said to Elias. I give them a week before they're running this place. Elias pushed open the mess hall door and a wave of heat rolled out. The three sisters stepped into a world of steam, grease, and sound. The air was thick with boiled potatoes, salt pork, and coffee that could strip paint. Voices bounced off the low rafters. Tin plates clattered. A fiddle sawed weakly in one corner, trying and failing to lift the weight from the room. Conversation dimmed as the women entered. Men stared over their shoulders, spoons pausing halfway to mouths. The cook, a broad woman from Quebec with arms like oak branches, froze with a ladle raised. Thandika's spine straightened. Namsa's chin lifted. Lindau took one tiny step closer to her sisters. Elias moved first. He grabbed 4 tin plates, sliding them down the counter. They're with me, he said to the cook. The woman eyed him, then the 3 sisters. They eat, they work, she said flatly. I'm not feeding drifters. They're not drifters, Elias said. Foreman cleared it. Foreman cleared nothing with my pot, she shot back. Thandika stepped forward. We will work, she said. We can clean, chop, carry. We will not take without giving back. The cook studied her, then jerked her chin toward a stack of dirty pots high as a man's chest. Those shine by morning, you eat every day, she said. Fail once, you fend for yourselves. Namsa's mouth opened, heat rising in her eyes, but Thandika touched her arm gently, stopping whatever words were about to spill out. We accept, Thandika said. The cook slapped ladles of stew onto their plates, thick and brown and heavy with root vegetables. Elias took his own share and guided them to an empty bench near the end of a long table. They sat, movements careful as if the benches might give way beneath them. Lindau watched the steam curl up from her bowl, then tasted the stew. Her face betrayed nothing, but she ate with steady determination, spoon scraping the bottom faster than her sisters. Where are the others like you? Elias asked quietly, when the worst of the room's curiosity had settled back into its usual noise. Thandika set down her spoon. Dead, she said simply. Or scattered. The men who brought us north traded in promises. Some broke on the way. Some broke when we arrived. Namsa's jaw clenched. They said there would be land, she said. Work for all. Freedom to build again. But ships and wagons do not run on truth. Elias ran his thumb along the edge of his plate. He thought of the town he had left 2 winters ago, of parents buried under damp earth and stone, of a sawmill that had burned to the ground in a single night. He thought of walking north with a bedroll and a new axe, feeling the world fall away behind him. Men lie, he said finally. Work doesn't. Trees don't. You swing, they fall. That much is honest. Lindau looked at him properly then, her gaze quiet and intent. And you, she asked. Do you lie? He met her eyes. Something in his chest drew tight, like a rope taking sudden weight. I try not to, he said. She nodded slowly as if filing that away. When the bell clanged again, this time the call to clear out to make way for the night crew, Elias rose. You'll be in the women's shack, he said. Small place near the edge of camp. Used to be for the cook's niece and her lot before they headed back south. Walls aren't much, but they hold. Thandika stood, lifting her plate to stack it with the others. What about work tomorrow? She asked. I'll speak to the foreman, Elias said. See where he wants you. He's not a gentle man, but he's fair enough if the day's gone well. Namsa gave a short, humorless laugh. In my experience, gentle men are the ones who lie best, she said. They stepped back into the night. The cold wrapped around them like rough cloth. Stars crowded the sky, sharp and bright, far from any town's glow. The women's shack sat near the tree line, a tiny box of rough boards with a thin thread of smoke curling from its pipe. The wind pulled at its corners, making it creak like an old ship. Elias lit a lantern and pushed open the door. Inside, 2 narrow cots stood against one wall, and a thin mattress lay on the floor. A small iron stove hunkered in the corner, its belly glowing weakly. Someone had left a wool blanket folded on one cot, smelling faintly of cedar and long-departed perfume. "It's not much," he said. "But it's yours." Thandika stepped in first, eyes scanning the room. Namsa followed, fingers brushing the rough boards. Lindau lingered at the threshold, looking back out at the forest, then stepped inside. Elias set the lantern on a crate and straightened, suddenly uncertain of where to put his hands. Thandika turned to him. "Why are you helping us?" she asked. "The foreman gave his orders. You could have pointed and gone to eat." Elias considered the question. He pictured them standing in the snow, alone in a camp where they were a novelty at best, a provocation at worst. He thought of long winters when a single act of kindness had meant the difference between a man's pride and his survival. "I know what it is to arrive somewhere and belong nowhere," he said. "That's all." Namsa tilted her head, studying him. "And what do you want from us?" she asked. "Men do not give for nothing." Elias met her gaze, felt the weight of all the stories people carried about men like him and men not like him. "I want you to live through this winter," he said. "That'll be enough for me." For a long moment nobody spoke. The stove popped, sending a small shower of sparks against the iron. Then Lindau said softly, "We have never trusted a man who looks like you before. Not with anything that matters." She was close enough now that he could see the faint scar along her jaw, pale against her skin, like a line drawn and half erased. "We will see if you are worth the risk," she said. Elias nodded. "That's fair." He stepped back toward the door, hand on the latch. "I'll come by at first light," he said. "If the foreman lets you near a saw, I'll be there." Thandika's gaze softened just a fraction. "Sleep, Elias," she said. "Tomorrow we will see what these northern trees think of us." He gave a slight half-smile and stepped out into the cold. Snow had started again, fine and steady. The camp lights flickered, lanterns swaying in the wind. Behind him, in the small shack by the trees, 3 sisters made a new kind of home out of thin walls and borrowed blankets. In the dark forest beyond, the pines stood silent and tall, waiting for axes and hands and the stubborn hearts that swung them. Morning came slow and blue, light leaking into the bunkhouse through gaps in the boards. Men groaned and rolled from their bunks as the bell clanged in the yard, a dull iron sound that pulled them from thin sleep. Breath fogged the air. Frost crusted the inside of the small window panes. Elias swung his legs over the side of the bunk and sat there for a moment, elbows on his knees, hands hanging. His shoulders ached from yesterday's haul. His palms were a map of old blisters, new callous. Someone cursed the cold. Someone else laughed at him for it. "On your feet, boy," old Kruger muttered from the bunk below. "Trees don't care how you slept." Elias pulled on his boots, the leather stiff but familiar, and shrugged into his wool shirt and thick coat. When he stepped outside, the air stabbed his lungs clean. Snow squeaked underfoot, that high winter sound that promised real cold. Smoke already climbed from the cookhouse. The sky was a pale wash, cloudless and cruel. In the distance, the tree line was a dark wall waiting. His eyes went instinctively to the edge of camp. A thin thread of smoke curled from the sisters' shack. No movement yet. He studied the small structure a moment longer, then turned toward the mess hall. Men moved in loose clusters, hunched and quiet. A few nodded to him. Most did not bother. Inside, the cook was already barking. "Move, you pack of ghosts. Potatoes don't eat themselves." Elias took his plate and stood in line, eyes scanning the room. He saw them then near the far end of the table. Thandika, Namsa, Lindau. They sat close together, shoulders almost touching, hands wrapped around tin mugs as if drawing heat straight into their bones. Their hair was newly tied back, faces washed, though the cold had left raw patches on their cheeks. The borrowed clothes still hung strange on them, but they wore them with an air that made even ill-fitted coats look deliberate. He walked over, plate in hand. "You found the coffee," he said. Namsa sniffed hers. "If this is coffee," she replied, "then I miss the lies of the men who brought us north." Thandika's mouth twitched. Lindau blew gently on the surface of her drink, watching the way it rippled. "You sleep?" Elias asked. "As much as strangers can," Thandika said. "Your walls talk. They creak like old women." Lindau nodded. "The wind scratches," she added, "like fingers on the outside." "That's just this place saying good morning," Elias said. "It complains more than some of the men." He ate standing beside them, leaning one hip against the end of the table. The room buzzed with low talk, though every so often he felt eyes slide their way, then away again. When the foreman entered, the sound dipped a notch. Havel was a thick man, not tall but solid, shoulders like a barrel, jaw dark with stubble. His fur cap sat low over his brow. His gaze swept the room like a saw passing a log, quick in measuring. "Eat fast," he barked. "We're behind on the south stand. Snow's coming deep this week." He caught sight of the three women, paused, then headed straight toward them, boots heavy on the plank floor. "You the ones I agreed to last night?" he asked without greeting. Then Dika rose back straight. "Yes." "Names?" he demanded. She gave them. He listened, expression unreadable, then jerked his chin toward Elias. "And you're the fool who's decided to be responsible for them," he said. Elias set down his fork. "If that's what you want to call it," he said. Havel eyed him. "They work, they stay," he said. "They don't, they go. I don't care where. I don't run a charity." "We understand," Thandika said. "Good." He scratched the side of his nose. "Cook wants you on pots and mending. There's enough grease and torn cloth in this camp to keep you busy through spring." Namsa's fingers tightened on her mug. "We can do more," she said. "We came for more." Havel's eyes shifted to her. "That so?" he said. "You swing an axe, girl?" Her chin lifted. "Better than some men I've seen," she said. The table behind them went quiet. Havel's mouth flattened, but there was a flicker of something. Amusement, maybe, or interest. "Words are cheap," he said. "Hands are not." Elias spoke. "Let me take them to the yard after breakfast," he said. "Give them a buck saw, some cordwood. If they're no good, you'll know. If they are, that's 3 more backs you don't have to hire." Havel regarded him for a long moment. Men at nearby tables pretended not to listen, their spoons suddenly very fascinating. "You vouch for them?" he asked at last. Elias hesitated, aware of the weight of that word. Then he nodded once. "I do." Havel grunted. 1 hour, he said. "No more. I won't have fingers chopped because some boy wants to play schoolmaster." He turned back toward the center of the room, already shouting instructions before he reached the door. Namsa looked up at Elias, eyebrows raised. "You gamble with your name," she said. "Sometimes that's all a man's got," he replied. After breakfast, the camp spilled out into the brittle morning. Teams scattered toward the river, the skid roads, the tool shed. The sound rose and spread, sled runners on snow, the clank of chains, the low curses of men finding their breath. Elias led the sisters toward the wood yard, where cordwood was stacked in lines as long as a house. A few men were already there, sawing lengths for the cookhouse and bunk stoves. Brant was among them. Broad, blond, with a face that would have been handsome if not for the permanent sneer. He straightened when he saw Elias and the women approaching. "What's this?" he called. "Bringing your new pets out to play?" Laughter from the men nearest him, quick and sharp. Elias kept walking. "Havel wants to see if they can work," he said. "You got a problem with more wood being cut?" Brant smirked. "Not if they're loading it into my bunk," he said. Namsa stopped beside a stack of logs and looked at him levelly. "My hands work for food and fire," she said. "Not for your bed." The laughter shifted, its edge turning. A few men elbowed each other, watching. Brant's eyes narrowed. "You've got a tongue on you," he said. "We'll see how long that lasts when winter really comes." Elias stepped slightly between them, not enough to make a show of it, just enough that Brant would have to go through him first. "You're burning daylight," he said to the man. "Or do you prefer your firewood to grow itself?" Brant snorted and turned back to his saw, though his glances toward them held a promise that was not friendly. Elias led the sisters to a clear patch in the yard. He picked up a 2-handled buck saw, old but sharp, and dropped it in the snow. "Ever use one of these?" he asked. Thandika and Namsa stepped forward together. They crouched, fingers brushing the metal, reading its weight. Lindau hung back, watching, her eyes moving from the saw to Elias's hands. Elias dragged a length of pine onto the sawing frame. "First rule," he said. "You work with your partner, not against them. Long, smooth pulls. Don't fight the teeth." He gripped one handle and motioned Namsa to the other. "Just to feel it," he said. "Thandika, you watch. Lindau, keep your hands clear." Namsa set her boots, eyes on the blade. They began slow. The saw sliced into the wood with a rough whisper. Namsa's first pulls were too hard, jerking the rhythm, but she adjusted quickly, feeling the pull of Elias's arms, matching him. "Good," he said. "Let the teeth do the work." They fell into a steady back and forth. Condensed breath puffed from their mouths on every pull. In a few moments, the log parted, the cut end dropping into the snow with a soft thud. Namsa looked at the smooth circle of wood, then at Elias. A hint of satisfaction warmed her features. You see, she said to her sisters. A tree in this place is not so different. Thandika stepped forward. Let me. She traded with Namsa, fingers brushing her arm. Elias reset the saw and they started again. Thandika's style was different, steadier, less forceful at first, but with a deep endurance. Once she found the rhythm, she did not break it. Her shoulders rolled like the sea under wind. The cut came clean. Elias shifted the next log. He found his muscles waking fully, warmed by the work and by something else too, a growing respect. He glanced at Lindau. You want to try? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded. Her hand wrapped around the handle, smaller than his, but her grip was sure. They started. She listened with her whole body, it seemed, to the movement. In a few strokes she was matching his breath. The saw sang through the pine, teeth spitting fine sawdust onto the snow. She did not have her sister's raw strength, but she had precision. When they finished, the cut face was almost perfect. She stepped back, cheeks flushed a deeper brown from effort and cold. A strand of hair had come loose, clinging damply to her temple. Well, Elias said. I've seen worse first days. Namsa's eyes flashed. You've seen worse men, she said. Brant had been watching between his own cuts. He sneered. Work's easy when a man holds the other side of the saw, he called. Let's see how they do without you cradling them. Elias's jaw tightened. You want a demonstration? He asked. Take my side. Brant snorted. I don't waste my time on games. He spat in the snow, but his gaze lingered, calculating. By the time the hour was nearly up, a modest pile of cut would lay at the sisters' feet. Their breaths came heavy, but none had dropped their end of the saw or asked to stop. Frost had gathered in their eyelashes. Their gloves, borrowed leather things a size too big, were wet with melted snow and sap. Havel's voice carried from the edge of the yard. Time. Elias turned. The foreman stood with his arms crossed, watching. He walked over, boots leaving firm prints. What do you think? Elias asked. Havel eyed the pile of wood, then the women, then the saw. He picked up a cut length, weighed it in his hand, checked the smoothness of the cut. They can pull, he said. Better than some green boys I've had. Namsa allowed herself the smallest victorious lift of her chin. But, Havel went on, I won't have them in the main stand. Not yet. Men get stupid when their world changes too fast. His gaze flicked toward where Brant was working, then back. They'll work the yard, he said. Cordwood, kindling, hauling. And help the cook. That enough for you? It's a start, Elias said. Havel grunted. You keep them out of trouble, he added, looking straight at Elias. I don't want fights over beds or blankets. Or anything else. Thandika spoke then. We did not come for fights, she said. We came because there was nowhere else to go. Havel shrugged. This place finds trouble even when you're not looking for it, he said. Ask anyone. He walked away, already shouting about sleds and chains. The rest of the day passed under a low, pale sun. The sisters worked the yard and the cookhouse, carrying wood, scrubbing pots until their knuckles reddened, patching shirts with borrowed thread. Elias spent most of his time on the south stand, swinging his axe until his shoulders hummed. Still, he found his gaze drifting toward camp whenever the sleds turned. During a brief break, he sat on a stump, gnawing at a heel of bread. Kruger joined him, lowering himself with a theatrical groan. Your trio made it through the morning, the old man said. Didn't break the saw, didn't run crying into the trees. That's more than I can say for some. Elias smirked. They're tougher than they look. Kruger chewed thoughtfully. They look plenty tough, he said. But men don't like change. You know that. Some will think they take food from their mouths. Others just don't like being reminded the world is wider than this valley. I've noticed, Elias said. Kruger spat in the snow. Watch Brant, he added. He's got an eye on them. Not the kind they want. Elias's jaw clenched. I know. That night after supper, the camp settled into its small routines. Some men played cards by lantern light. Others rolled cigarettes and stared into space, thoughts far away. The fiddle scraped out a tune in the corner, thin but stubborn. Outside the cold deepened. Stars flared bright, so close they seemed to hum. The forest loomed black beyond the ring of camp. Elias stepped out for air, his lungs craving the clean burn despite the freeze. He walked without much intention at first, boots crunching familiar paths. His feet took him eventually toward the edge of camp. Light spilled from the sisters' shack, a weak yellow frame on the snow. Through the small window he saw movement, shadows crossing, hands busy. He hesitated, hand hovering near the latch, then knocked against the rough boards. There was a pause, then Thandika's voice. Yes. It's Elias, he said. You decent. A murmur inside, then the latch lifted. Thandika opened the door. Warmth flowed out, thin but real. The small stove glowed orange, its heat barely reaching the far cot. The room smelled of wood smoke and soap and something else, oil on hair, perhaps faint but clean. Namsa sat cross-legged on the floor, mending a torn shirt with small, precise stitches. Lindai was near the stove, hands stretched toward it, palms almost touching the iron. Elias removed his cap as he stepped inside, more habit than manners. Just came to see if you'd frozen solid, he said. Not yet, Namsa replied. Your cook works us like borrowed mules. That helps. Thandika closed the door behind him, shutting out the wind's whine. You worked as well, she said. We saw you from the yard. He shrugged. Same as always. Lindai watched him, eyes reflecting the stove's light. You move like a man who has nowhere else to be, she said. He leaned against the wall, feeling the boards cold through his coat. I don't, he said. Silence slipped in for a moment, not uncomfortable, just there. Namsa knotted the thread and bit it off cleanly. The men stare, she said. Like we are ghosts. Or something worse. Some are just curious, Elias said. Some are worse. You'll learn their faces. Thandika's gaze hardened slightly. We have learned men's faces our whole lives, she said. It is how we stayed alive. Lindai turned one palm upward, studying the calluses. Where we come from, she said softly, the men who looked like you came with rifles and paper. They said the land was theirs now. They said we were moving like cattle. Her eyes lifted to his. We ran north. Now we are here. Still north. Still in the cold. Elias felt the words hit somewhere deep, like the dull thud of an axe meeting hard knot. I didn't carry those rifles, he said quietly. Doesn't change what happened to you. But it matters to me that you know that. Namsa's lips pressed into a line. You were their face, she said. But you swung a saw with us. You carried wood beside us. That is more than they ever did. Thandika nodded slowly. We have never been this close to a man like you without fear trailing after us, she said. Tonight it walks slower. Not gone. But slower. He looked at each of them in turn. The room seemed suddenly smaller, the stove's glow more intimate than it should have been. I can't fix where you came from, he said. I can barely fix my own past. But I can stand between you and some of the trouble here. Not all. Some. Lindai tilted her head. Why? She asked again. You could close your eyes, swing your axe, eat your stew. Let the winter take who it wants. He searched for the right words. The stove popped, a little shower of sparks ticking against the iron. Because someone once did that for me, he said at last. Not in big ways. Just small ones that meant I made it to the next day. Sometimes that's all a man can give back. They absorbed that in quiet. Namsa shifted, setting aside the mended shirt. Teach us something, she said abruptly. He blinked. Like what? A word, she said. In your language. One that matters. He thought. Snow, he offered. We've got plenty of words for that. She rolled her eyes. More than one word? Snow is snow. You haven't seen it in all its moods yet, he said. We've got slush, crust, powder, sleet. Too many, Lindai said, but there was a hint of curiosity. He gave them a simple word from his mother's tongue. He said it once, then again, slower. They tried to shape it with their mouths. The sounds came out bent but alive. They laughed softly when Namsa mangled the second syllable, and he found himself laughing with them, the sound strange and almost unfamiliar in his own throat. Then Thandika said, Our turn. She gave him a word in Zulu. He repeated it, stumbling. They corrected him gently, again and again until he got close enough that they nodded. What does it mean? He asked. Thandika's eyes held his. It means, we endure, she said. The room seemed to listen with them. The wind pressed at the walls, searching for a way in. He said the word again, letting it settle on his tongue like something hard but necessary. We endure, he translated. Namsa watched him. If you stay true, Elias, she said, you will be the first man with your face that this word belongs to as well. He nodded slowly, feeling the weight of that not as a burden, but as a kind of line drawn in the snow. Outside, the forest creaked under the cold. Inside, in a small shack at the edge of the world, a young lumberjack and 3 Zulu sisters shared thin heat, new words, and the first fragile strand of something that might, if the winter allowed, grow into trust. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and comment what country you're watching from. See you in the next one.